Hello world, it's Siraj. It's Siraj. In this episode, we're going to build an image classifier using TensorFlow in 30 lines of Python. Can we actually predict stock prices with machine learning?
So on Siraj's podcast, about a week ago, we saw him interviewing with Tren Black.
Hi, my name's Tren Black, but you could call me the Greek god of CS, and I'm the guy who just fucked your channel.
They go back and forth talking about Siraj's mistakes and Tren basically politely exposing him on everything he did.
From the get-go, I didn't like, the way that you were pretending to be an AI expert on the internet.
And just a quick recap, if you don't really know what Siraj did and why he's in the wrong here, let's talk about that. He plagiarized a scientific article, replacing a phrase called logic gate into a logic door, which is probably the most legendary and everlasting memes that will exist in our generation. Also, he said he would admit 500 people to a course he was creating.
This is a one-time course, and I'm only accepting 500 students so that I can give each of them personalized education and guidance.
And that admitted 1,270 people to that course, and then added a refund policy out of nowhere. I mean, you could watch a bunch of videos. CoffeeZilla does a great job of explaining it, and Tren Black does a great job of explaining how Siraj up. But that's not what I want to talk about. I actually want to talk about how Siraj has improved in the past months and what he's been doing to try to eliminate some of those bad habits of copying GitHub code and barely crediting the original creator of the code he's been using and plagiarizing for the past 4 years his YouTube channel has been in existence. So Siraj, during this podcast interview with Tren Black, seems to be very calm, collected, not really usually how he acts on YouTube. He's very enthusiastic, outgoing, talks a lot, very loud, but here you can see him just very calm, collected.
But if you make AI for making money, or how to make money with machine learning or financial prediction, that's when you start getting a lot of views and likes. And if you just keep going in that direction, you're going to become this snake oil salesman.
And I find it funny how he's somehow changed and been so enlightened. And so he talks about what he's been doing in the past months, and it's kind of hilarious. Roll the clip.
But I'm ready to just get into agriculture, actually. I'd like to grow food and sell it, maybe, but mostly just to see if I can. I want to see if I can grow some plants, because these are my new computers, actually. My tomatoes are my new computers.
So Tren and Siraj talk about how Siraj has been growing tomatoes in his backyard and been using tomatoes as a method to deal with stress, and he's very passionate about agriculture, and they just have this lovely conversation about how a plant is the true microprocessor, and silicon circuits are nothing compared to photosynthesis, and all of these very enlightened conversations. And you can just see Tren's expression and throughout Siraj's conversation, and it just seems like Tren is laughing so much inside. It was such an awkward thing to watch as Tren was internally laughing as Siraj was just saying all of this ludicrous agriculture Zen stuff. So that was pretty crazy. But I mean, the conversation was not all talking about Zen, agriculture, growing plants. Siraj actually admits to a lot of his fuck-ups here, and that's what I think is the most important thing. And when Tren brings up the plagiarized scientific document, Siraj says,
it's a good question, and it's something that I asked myself for weeks afterwards. My focus for that was the video, actually, and the production of it. When I thought about the paper, to me, it was just another element to add to the video description. I wanted something else, but the problem was that I wanted my name on it. That's the shift. I could have just linked to a bunch of, there were seven different research papers that I was basing a a theory off of. And what I should have done is I should have put all 7 in the video description, said there, here it is. But instead I said, my summary of all this is not just a video, it's a paper. And then I copied and pasted a bunch of stuff. And I just went, and here's another thing. I actually consulted with an expert in the field working on this stuff beforehand. And he's like, yeah, sure, let's write a paper together. It's going to take a year. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't have a year for that. Like, I make 2 videos a week. Let me just, shit this thing out in like 3 days, and like no one's going to care or notice, and I'll make 2 more videos next week, and we'll just keep going. But
I think the most important thing here is that Siraj admits what he did and how wrong it was and how stupid it was for him to do such a thing. And I think regardless of the effect on his channel, and if you look at his social blade, it's basically flatlined. Like, he's not getting as many views. A video he released 2 days ago, which would usually get like 30 to 40,000 views off top, just got maybe like 7 or 8,000 views. And it's a little disappointing to see his decline, as I used to be an avid fan of Siraj, and now he's just basically an internet meme who copies GitHub code. Also talks about how he was alone throughout all of this process, and how when he was alone, he didn't really have any ideas to bounce off of people. Like, he was just making these decisions without any outside input, and that's why he felt like he failed the people that were in the course. Now, also in the podcast, Siraj kind of talks about how the field of AI is so obnoxious and detestable, and also Tren adds to this. Tren, in a lot of his videos, notes that AI is basically like guesswork for the average high schooler, and even says here that high schoolers and college freshmen just throw around the term just for fun because they're so excited about it but don't really understand how it works. And I think there's a lot of truth to this. I mean, as a high school senior, I think when I started learning machine learning, the number one thing that I started with was the math. I took an Andrew Ng course and made it 100% my priority to understand logistic regression, to understand the cost function, how it works. And even though I didn't really understand the calculus, I tried to my best to understand it. And there's a certain capacity you can reach of the math that you can understand at this level before you get instruction as a college student. But I do agree with Tren that a lot of people are trying to learn AI, neural networks, machine learning, all of these like buzzwords, just understand the very basic low-level terminology and don't really understand the math behind it. There's a lot of things to unpack here in terms of Siraj's success previously and what he is going to do in the future. He said in the podcast that he was a slave to the algorithm.
You talked about a lot of things like the YouTube algorithm and how you became like a slave to it, and your happiness, started being driven by your analytics, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about what that's like?
Yeah, just focusing on views and likes and subscribers and over anything else is something that you can do. That's something that, is a thing, and you can do that for years, and you can be successful doing that, but it's not very fulfilling. It is at first, but it's like you're switching out your own interests for the interest of what the algorithm wants, and you will change. I changed because of it. And, because I've been off of it for 2 months, I've kind of changed again, but in a better way. At least I think so. But I just think that it's a monster. We've created a monster. I think AI and social media algorithms, it's just this accelerating monster. It's kind of sad, actually.
And it looks like he's not going to be a slave to the algorithm anymore, as he's not going to be really making any of those tacky, generic machine learning videos where he just copies GitHub code. He's actually going to start learning on his own how to code and do game development, which is something that I really appreciate and I find amazing. I also think that the fact that he moved out, and he did say in the podcast that he's moving out and kind of being a little bit more focused and thinking past computers and not using computers as much, because he said that most of his 20s was dedicated just to being in front of a computer and he didn't want to do any of that. So we can meme the fact that, he's trying to seem like this enlightened being, and, Tren is like, I don't know, Tren has basically destroyed this guy's channel just like he did to Matt Tran and Tech Leads. I think it is important to note, though, that Siraj has acknowledged his mistakes, what he did wrong, and that is probably the most important thing here. For the future, I'd love to see Siraj do more game development videos. I'd also like him to get back into machine learning, as even though he states that he doesn't really want to get back into AI and machine learning, and that we kind of have to wipe the slate clean, I'd love to see him do some original videos where he gives him his insight a little bit more on healthcare and machine learning, because he always talks about that. But even his application using making your own healthcare app was plagiarized. So I really want him to get back to doing original work that is unique, and I think he could get a lot of success from that, as he does have 700,000 subscribers, and I won't doubt the fact that he'll probably hit 1 million within the next year or two. Besides that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I kind of wanted just to do a rant today. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe down below. We'll be hitting you with coding tutorials, machine learning videos, and game development stuff as the week goes on. I'm also going to hit you guys with how I taught my computer next Wednesday. But for now, that's it. Peace.